Welcome to month 3 of Blackberry Bramble Block of the Month. So this month we're going to be doing a whole bunch of flying geese. So as you can see, I have all the pieces cut out. Yep, that was a lot of those, let me tell you. So for steps 1 and 2, the instructions say to place a diagonal line across this, that one, that one, that one, and all of these. So instead of having you watch me do all of those, we're going to jump right into step number 3. But I do want to say that with all of these that need the line on them, so I am going to be using diagonal seam tape in order to eliminate the need to put the line on the back of each of these squares. I would highly recommend you doing the same thing because that will eliminate a lot of time in drawing those lines. This is the diagonal seam tape I was telling you about. As you can see, it's got 3 lines of markings. You've got your red center line, and then you've got 2 black lines on either side of that red that are 1/4 inch away. So then what you do is you attach that to the base of your sewing machine. You line up the red line with your needle. So now if my instructions call for sewing on the line, which I would have drawn, I would line those points up with that red line, and I would stitch right through, just keeping my fabric point on the red line. If the instructions call for sewing on the side, 1/4 inch away from the line that's been drawn down the center, I move it over to either side, depending on what I need. So then, when I run that through, I'm going to be stitching along this red line, which will be 1/4 inch away from the center line. You can do it on either side. That way, I don't have to draw a line diagonally on all those pieces of fabric. I can just use this tape, and that's going to take care of that line for me. Okay, so for step number 3, we have sewn these two together. These two together. Fabric T and fabric F. We've done our stitching on both sides of that center line. Again, I used that tape so that I didn't have to actually draw that line. So now what we're going to do is we are going to cut where that line would have been. So point to point on the diagonal. Then we're going to iron these open. So I'm going to take that. And I'm going to press that open. On each of those. Then the next step, after you've done all 4 of those, is now we're going to trim these down to 2 inches square. So you're going to want to take a ruler that has a 45-degree line on it, because you're going to line up your ruler line along with this seam. So this will go here. And I'm going to line that up along the seam. And I'm going to line up this bottom edge with my 2-inch. Let me actually turn this ruler this way so that you can see the 2-inch easier. So here's my line lined up with that seam. Got my 2-inch here and here. So I'm going to trim off this little bit of extra here. And then I'll come back and I'll just trim off these dog ears. So now I have trimmed down my block from this down to a 2-inch square. Do that for all 4 of your pieces for step number 3. So here we are for step number 4. So we're going to take our unit 1 that we just made in step number 3, and we're going to attach 2 of the T rectangles. Those are triangles, yes. Make sure you've got your orientation correct on unit 1, and then you're going to take these T triangles and you're going to attach them this way, like that. Now, make sure when you are sewing these, you are lining up the point here to the top of this point, not down here. You want to line up here. So when you stitch your first piece on, you're going to put it on like this. And that's going to give you this stitched piece here. So again, I have lined up my corners here. You can see. And then I'm going to press that open. So then once I've got that pressed open, I am now going to attach the bottom piece. And again, I'm going to line up over here, not over here. It seems counterintuitive, but it'll make sense here in just a moment. So you're going to line this up there, and then you're going to stitch your seam this way. So then once that has been stitched, you'll press that open, and now as you can see, that's giving us, after I trim off that dog ear, now I've got this 1/4 inch seam to where my point is, and it's going to give us a nice clean point on the next part of the step, which is to take triangle from N, and we're going to stitch that like that along here, and that'll give us a nice clean finish. I'll show you that in a moment. Here is our triangle piece now stitched to our N piece. So then you're going to press that open, and that's going to give you this, and here's your nice point. You'll trim off your dog ears, and that's going to give you your finished block for step number 4, and you're going to make 4 of those. One thing I do want to mention, when you're ironing and working with these, The triangles cause everything to be on the bias, so you don't want to do a lot of manipulating with your fabrics because it will stretch. So when you're sewing with them, with your ironing, don't stretch them, don't pull them apart, don't do much of them, anything at all. When you're ironing, you want to make sure that you do an pressing motion, not an ironing motion. Ironing will cause everything to go out of straight. So make sure it's simply a pressing motion. We're done with step 4. On to 5. For step number 5, there is a typo in that some information is missing. It talks about adding a fabric C square to your fabric K rectangle, but it doesn't tell you that you also need to use the fabric T squares as well. So just note that you will be using both of these to make your block here. So once we've got that, we're going to attach our fabric C to the K, and we're going to stitch on the diagonal here. And then once that's done, we're going to trim that corner piece off and leave a 1/4 inch seam here, and then you'll press that open. Once you've got that pressed open, then you'll take your fabric T and you will line up your edges here, and you will stitch across this diagonal here. Then we're going to trim that down to a 1/4 inch and press it open. So here I've got that one pressed open, and I've stitched on the line here for block T, square T. And after I have trimmed that and pressed it open, that's what the finished block is going to look like. And you'll make 4 of those to complete step number 5. For step number 6, you're going to want to stay very organized. So what I have done is I have laid out all of my fabrics according to the diagram on the page, and I have separated all the pieces out according to how they're going to go for each block. So all of these are going to be quantities of 4, and then starting here, and all the rest of these will be 8s. So you'll use the same steps as you did in step number 5 to put all of these together, and then that's going to finish out step number 6. So here are all of the strips finished from step number 7. So for step number 8, we're going to put these together. And at first I was confused when it said to attach them at fabric F, but then I realized that they were talking about this fabric here, not the block number. So these will get put together this way. You'll sew all 4 of them together this way. Then on 2 of them, you're going to add the blocks from a previous step. The 2 strips without the extra block are going to go on the right and left side of the centerpiece. Then these that you're going to attach this block to, both ends, it's going to go this way. So for each end, this dark piece is going to be pointing towards the center of your medallion, or the center of your quilt. And then the pieces on the other side will be like this on the other end. And those pieces then will go on the top and the bottom of your medallion quilt center. And here is the finished center with the flying geese, all bazillion of them around the edges. And that finishes month number 3. I will see you next month.